Turntable Stories. This programme was funded by Comisiún na Man with the television licence fee. Records have been a big part of my life. I've been obsessed with music since I was a teenager, and I first heard Nirvana's Nevermind, and it blew my mind. I bought some records as a teenager, and like a lot of people, I moved on to CDs and tapes, and eventually streaming. But I always missed the thrill of flipping through the racks at the record shop and finding that bargain or that holy grail that gave me the little moment of joy when I found it. So I got a new record player as a birthday present about 10 years ago, and my vinyl collection started in earnest. This series will look at vinyl's revival in the last few years, with vinyl sales increasing year on year since the mid-2000s. I'll speak to music fans, musicians, DJs and journalists to shed light on why the world is putting the needle to the groove once again. But first, the record shop. These spaces are a hub for the independent music scene in Ireland, and they welcome loads of different people who love music. In my hometown of Galway, I went to Bell Book and Candle, both the bookshop and the record shop, which owner Paul Deasy described.
It looks a bit like a standard bookshop when you look one direction. It's got a couple of tables with books on them. It's got bookshelves which have old models of ships above them. On the walls it has posters of scooters, rock musicians. And I suppose if you look the other direction, the music section of the shop, I have a lot of records on the wall in holders. I have CDs and shelves. In front of the counter, that changes. At the moment, there's kids' annuals there because I bought a load of Beanos. There's a bubble car in the shop. It's a BMW Isetta. Well, it looks like a bubble. There's a super life-size Raj, one half of Podge and Raj sitting in the car. It's kind of a large puppet.
It is a unique shop, and Paul's love of records began at home.
My dad, his record collection, I have a feeling travelled with them. They were always in the house, and our house is a country house, which has, I suppose, inverted commas, a parlour. We had one perfect room in the house, the parlour, and the only reason we ever went in there, my sister practiced piano, because there was an old piano in it, but the record player lived in there as well, and my dad's record collection was in there. So I suppose on a wet Sunday, if my dad wasn't listening to records, we could wander in there and start putting things on. We weren't hugely keen on his music, because the music might be linked to rebellion for me. And I feel that maybe just pre-teen, when you're kind of starting to find your own thing, and I suppose music was part of that, along with clothes and along with an attitude. You're kind of starting to grow up a bit. The problem was that my dad loved that music, his records in that parlour, and none of the rest of us did. And he was a great man for telling us what we should be listening to. Fast forward, I don't know how many years you'd have to fast forward, and all of a sudden we realised that maybe what he was listening to was very, very good music.
The record break is tucked away in one of the side streets in Ennis, County Clare. As soon as you enter, you get the smell of coffee. It's a cosy shop with comfy couches set out for people to enjoy cups of tea and coffee while browsing the records. For owner Sinead Nickshiada, it was her mother's interest in music that sparked her own curiosity.
I remember when I was really little, my mum playing records. She'd wake us up on a Saturday morning doing the vacuuming or the housework, and she'd have her records on at a high volume level. And she'd be playing Bob Dylan or the Rolling Stones or the Beatles, real 1960s stuff. So grew up listening to that.
You say yes, I say no. You say stop, and I say go, go, go. Oh no, you say goodbye, and I say hello. Hello, hello. I don't know why you say goodbye, I say hello. And
I suppose, very influential on my taste as well. I started getting into that when I was in primary school, you know, very unlike my peers who were listening to kind of chart music. But I do remember the first record I bought in my early teens was Billy Joel. So yeah, kind of early teens, and you had to have a record. They were kind of a cut above a cassette or a CD.
And what is it about them that you love?
I think it's just the tangibility of having a record in your hands. An album, it has a story to tell. It's compiled in a certain way that you listen to it from beginning to end. I don't think you're as inclined to, skip. I mean, people do, occasionally, but you're not as inclined to do that as you would be with a CD. You just, would press forward, or, if you're listening to something online, just go on to the next track or whatever. It's a real listening experience. I think just the artwork that's on the record, the readership at the back, there's much more in it than you get anywhere else. You don't bring somebody home to show them your Spotify collection, with a record, like you'd be inviting people around. Did you see this? It's just, there's much more substance in that and quality.
Oh, hi, I'm John. I'm the owner of Bunker Vinyl in Cork.
And we're here in the shop. Can you describe it to the listeners, what it looks like?
God, it's a bit of a hodgepodge of stickers, art. I think a lot of people, when they come in first, they kind of, before they look at the records, they're just kind of looking at the walls and taking it all in. I just try to add art to it all the time and just keep it colourful and stuff. I think as I'm in here so long every day, I like to look at different stuff all the time.
And did you always want to open a record shop, or was it just something that happened?
Yeah, it's funny. My dad always said, when I was a little kid, when I asked what I want to be, I would always say, a record shop owner, Dad. A record shop owner. I think from about 8 or 9. And I started I was a prolific bootlegger when I was a kid as well. I was just obsessed with making like tapes for friends and stuff. So I think I was, even from like the age of 12, I was the kid making DJ mixtapes to pass to friends.
Charlie says always tell your mummy before you go off somewhere.
When I came back from London first, which was like 10 years ago, I got a spot on Mother Jones Market and started trading there. Actually, funnily enough, selling off my old T-shirt collection. And I came back from England quite broke, so I started my business by selling off all my band T-shirts, getting the money then to buy records, and then about a year later I saw this, what is now Premises a Bunker, being advertised as an office. But the landlord was easy and said, look, you can move in and do a record shop if you want. So fortunately it's really in the city centre, but it was I just fell on luck really, like.
ray of everything has gone too long. The sea melts into the fire on a dusk twilight. Here comes with a single waves, smoke it paint down the hillside, wildfire. I know your smell. You come just before.
We just heard the song Burning House from Magda Gary. She's one of the people I found browsing records.
So it's Magda from Barcelona. Just came to Galway for a visit. It's my fourth time here. I always try to visit just to see some gigs and meet new musicians and stuff. Yeah, I'm a singer. I'm a songwriter, yeah.
So we're here at Bell Book and Candle and I saw you were looking through the records there. What did you buy?
I buy a record from the film Camelot. Because, yeah, I found it, the cover, I found it beautiful. I don't know what kind of music is inside, but it looks like very from the, that kind of aesthetic. I really like the legends from the King Arthur. And I'm doing like a research for an album of mine about this kind of star-crossed lovers and stuff. So I found it interesting to find that one. I'm very interested in the used violin secondhand because it's recycled, so you don't have to, for the pollution and stuff, it's not too great to buy a new vinyl. So, you can find a lot of treasures, lost treasures. For me, it's always like a research for my music. It's just to learn more and to create more from that thing. It's like having a book as well. It's a lot of info and new stimulations and stuff. So I found this very interesting, yeah.
I asked Sinead about what kind of clientele come into the record break.
Well, I think it's very hard to say one kind because it's people from all walks of life. People that I was really surprised that I would never have thought would listen to the kind of albums that they do listen to. I wouldn't have, thought that one to look at them. So it's really interesting that way. Because I think you can really tell a person's character almost by the type of music that they listen to. It tells a lot about a person. We get a lot of visitors from overseas. We get a lot of interest from people from out of town as well as some locals. But I think it's a real kind of point of interest when you're coming to Ennis to visit this record shop and coffee shop, because it's a little bit, as I said, like non-generic and kind of it's like a one of its kind kind of thing. It's quite original.
The vinyl resurgence is something that keeps coming up and up. For some people, it never went away, but then for others, it's kind of like a whole new thing. I think a lot of TV shows and stuff, I've seen, you'll often see record players in situ now and, shows and stuff. And I think just new generation find it as well. So instead of being that throwaway thing, they actually have ownership of something. So I see group of young girls collecting, which is brilliant, something I didn't see before. But I think stuff like Stranger Things, Kate Bush is kind of bringing that awareness of records up with teenage girls.
So there's different kind of generations. So do you see that in the shop here, different age groups coming in?
Yeah, my youngest is Roisin, who's 6, and she buys kids soundtracks, which I order in, so like The Mermaids and stuff like that. And my eldest is 80, Patrick, who's obsessed with Elvis, just everything Elvis. So I think, I've got quite a broad age group of people. Yeah.
I'm Cian Gilmore.
And we're here at Bunker Vinyl. What are you after buying?
After buying Radiohead, OK Computer.
Bit of a classic. And why did you choose that one?
Well, I just started kind of buying some vinyls recently. Every 2 weeks I'll buy one, kind of build up the collection. And I used to listen to Radiohead loads as a kid, like it's classic stuff, so yeah. Love collecting them. Yeah, I'm getting big into it now. So,
Vinyl is kind of expensive, so why do you buy it?
well, like it's nice, and I'd like to have like all the stuff I love on like as physical, and I'd love to like maybe when I'm older, you know, in 20 years, have this big collection of all the things I'd listened to as a kid. Maybe show it to my kids or something, you know.
Paul in Bellbook and Candle recalls trips to Dublin from Galway when he was a teenager to go record shopping.
The Dublin Chamber subsidised the bus. So it was £5 return. The bus would bring you to Dublin and would bring you home. Now, it left very early in the morning, and the bus stopped at every crossroads to pick people up. There might have been a couple of companies doing it. So it could take you 5 hours or 4.5 hours to get to Dublin pre-motorway. We'd go up on that bus. We'd head to Freebird. We'd head to Temple Bar. There was always a load of people selling second-hand stuff. We'd head to all of those. On O'Connell Bridge, you'd get the bootlegs. There'd be guys with a briefcase or something like, and it all blank tapes, often highlighter pen, yellow or orange, you know, with black writing on them, usually very poor quality. We'd buy them as well. And my mother we'd always get a couple of quid, and we'd have to buy a box of Dunkin' Donuts because Dunkin' Donuts was like this kind of exciting thing. So we'd come home with a load of junk and music, but we weren't fussed on whether it was a record or a tape. I completely wasn't fussed. Pre-internet, the only way you could hear a song is if a DJ played it, or if it was if it was Med Number 1 on Top of the Pops, you'd hear it. So every Thursday, that was a religious thing, watching Top of the Pops. But otherwise, you recorded it on a blank tape from a radio show. It was on Top of the Pops, or you owned it. You couldn't. So you'd have a song. I suppose the modern term now would be earworms, but you'd have a song in your head that you really, really, really wanted to hear it, and wanted to hear it many, many times in a row. The only way to get it was to own it. Really, you could record it off the radio with a DJ talking over it. Not the same thing.
And what kind of music would you be talking about?
This could be embarrassing now, because I suppose early days we weren't always the cool people that we are now. But so there would have been like 80s pop would have been the beginning. And not my sister now, she's a bit younger than me, so I suppose my journey might have started before hers, you know, but I definitely would have been listening to 80s pop. An obsession with synthesizers.
So in the shop here, you have second-hand records, you have new records. So how does it all work for getting the stock? Do people bring in the old records to you, or how does it work?
Do you know, it was funny. I actually lived with 2 record dealers in London. So when I opened the shop first, all my supplies were coming from friends in London. But then, of course, Brexit happened, unfortunately. So I had to, kind of overnight, I had to find complete new suppliers. So I buy all my second-hand records from dealers, one in Sweden and one in Denmark. And occasionally you get people coming in. Not great, to be honest. You'll get people phoning you going, I've got a load of crap records in the attic. Would you have any interest? So, yeah, it happens. But generally, I try to buy bigger collections and, yeah, just keep it moving all the time.
And has Discogs had any effect on your sales or even on how you price things?
Oh, I have a real love-hate relationship with Discogs. I think any shop using Discogs to price their records just is a disgrace in my eyes, you know. I've been in shops where I've said to someone, sorry, how much is that? And in front of me, they've pulled down Discogs, checked highest price first. And you're like, excuse me, like that's... and they're like, no, it's a first press. And you're like, no, and the quality is not great. So I have friends who sell on Discogs. They have extremely rare records. Some are priced accordingly, some are overpriced.
Paul has found a similar situation with some of the records that he sells.
Like there'd be a certain amount of speculators. For them, the value of the record would take a precedent over what the record was. I think those people, if they get out their mobile phone and see the record's worth €500 and I have it out for €2, they'll buy it because of the 500, not because of what's on the record. There'd be a certain amount of people like that. That'd be speculator style. There'd be a certain amount of people who'd be obsessed with the genre, like the way I sell the dance records. You know, so there'd be people, say, Warp or I think Factory maybe, you know, people who like a label and get very excited when they'd see the label, even though they wouldn't know the band, but the label would carry you. There'd be present buyers that would have no interest in music at all, but they know that their husband or wife likes a certain band or, you know, and there'd be an awful lot of young, I suppose, for those people, stuff that we might see as a bit out of fashion, they would hold a big kind of a, I don't know, are their parents playing it at home? I don't really know. It'd be very 80s, you know, so it'd be, I suppose, your Blondie and your Aha, and I'm trying to think of those 80s, Duran Duran, you know, there'd be a lot of youngsters who would really be into that.
I'm Lisa Cohen.
I'm Miranda.
I'm visiting Galway to deliver her to school where she's going to be living in Galway.
So we're at Bell Book and Candle here, and I saw you looking at some records. So are they something that you're into that you buy?
Well, I had to leave my record player back in the States when I moved with all my records, and I'm hoping to get it out here in a few months if I can ship it. But so I won't buy anything today. I really enjoy buying like records from the 70s, the 60s. Yeah, that like time, because I think they play really well. But I've also recently enjoyed buying like newer, I don't know, just like my favorite albums, like more contemporary albums, and listening to them on vinyl because it gives a different, you can't kind of easily switch from one song to the next. It enforces more that you have to listen to the whole album.
Do you still have your old records and do you still buy them?
I don't still buy them. I still have them, but they're in boxes because I don't have a record player. And many of them have been purloined by my daughter, who's taken them to her own home. I would say that it's interesting to hear that you have to actually physically do something to stop listening to them. But in my day, we listened to records and there was a little handle that, if I'm sure it still exists, that if you pulled it back, the record would play and then it would just replay. And so if you really loved an album, you would just pull the arm back and listen to it ad nauseum.
At the record break, Sinead has been putting on gigs, and it has led to a bigger project.
I think it's quite important to have a platform for independent musicians, singer-songwriters. It's a pleasure to be able to offer that. And over the time I've been here, firstly, I ran 170 free gigs here at the shop. And out of that, more recently, I pressed an album of our own, produced our own album, and it has 8 platforms, 10 different music acts, locally, some internationals, and they have all, you know, in the past played at the record break at one time or other.
That's a brilliant thing to do. So how did it feel, you know, to actually hold a record in your hand that basically you had made or you had produced?
Oh, I was absolutely over the moon, delighted to be, to have done that, and really proud moment to actually have produced a record, from here in Ennis. Yeah, it's lovely. It's lovely. It was also kind of a bit bittersweet because it was actually inspired. The reason I did press it in the end was because my life partner passed away at the end of 2022, and I kind of did it in his honour. It was something we had talked about in the past doing, and I just went ahead and did it.
You fall to your knees and cry. You call, I'm here, I'll try. But I can't stay here, I can't be your only one. And I can't stay here, I won't be forever young. But you're gonna be okay.
The record shop plays an important role in the local music community, with bands often meeting there and bonding over shared taste.
The biggest contribution the shop has made is that an awful lot of people have met an awful lot of people in the shop. So on Saturdays, Friday evening and Saturdays, but an awful lot of school, like secondary school kids, kind of wandering in, and looking at CDs or looking at music books. And I think bands have found members, or people have gotten together playing because they've met on a Friday or Saturday. Yeah, I'm a touch proud of that.
It's so funny. Like, I was saying it to my mum the other day. Like, there's a band from Cork now, the Cliffords, and they played Glastonbury last week. And Mum and I were watching it, and I was like, Mum, they're the kids that you met in their school uniforms when they used to come into the shop. So it's so nice seeing, I think 4 or 5 bands have actually met and started from being in here, and it's just so lovely to see the kids, say 2-3 years later, when you start seeing them doing tours and stuff, and you're like, I remember them in their school uniforms, they've grown up, So yeah, it's really lovely to see.
I'll leave the last word to Sinead and a very personal song from Sean Meats, her partner who passed away, that closes the All Rise album she released.
I finished the album with a tune that he composed, and I found it on his laptop not long after he had passed away. So that tune is what really, really inspired the album. So it's lovely that it finishes out with Sean's song. And I just put 000 as a title for it. So it's like infinitive,
Turntable Stories. Produced by Alan Meany. Music by Eamon Bailey. This programme was funded by Comisiún na Meán with the television licence fee.